Hey there, good morning. Welcome to the Jeep Solid Garage. So today I'm going to show you guys how to replace tie rod ends on a Jeep Wrangler. So hey there, my name's Dale and welcome to my channel Jeep Solid. So today we're going to be replacing the tie rods on Project Fungus. If you have not seen my previous fungus videos, this Jeep has a very appropriate name, although it's not full of fungus anymore. It cleaned up really great, but it does need new tie rods. The tie rods on this are just shot. I was actually even getting a little bit of death wobble with it because the tie rods are shot and just allowing so much slop, so much play in there that the whole steering mechanism was just shifting back and forth. So the tie rods on this definitely need to be replaced. This is a very easy project that most any home mechanic can do themselves, and I'm going to walk you through that process. Okay, and on the driver's side, you've got that tie rod right there, which is the left outer, then this long guy coming all the way across, and all the way over to the passenger side here. And you can see these boots, these are just torn. It won't hold any grease anymore, and there's a lot of play. It's kind of hard to see right now. When I take this off, I'll show you how much play in there. These are supposed to be kind of stiff. Actually, I can just show you right now that these guys, they're pretty stiff. You know, you can move them, but it's not real easy. When I take those other guys off, I'll show you, they'll just be flopping around and the boots on them are all torn. Definitely need to be replaced. And this one is the one on the passenger side, left outer. And as I indicated earlier, this is the passenger side or right outer, and it is this real long guy going all the way across. And I will be sure to include a link in the description below where you can find these replacement tie rod ends for your Jeep Wrangler. The very first thing I gotta do is chalk the wheels. And then jack up the front end. We're going to take off both front wheels. We're going to jack it up, put some jack stands under the axles there, get the wheels off the ground, take those off so we have free movement so we can get those tie rods off. All right, and there we go. And one thing I really strongly recommend, when you take your tires off like this, you're working underneath the front end of the Jeep, slide your wheels underneath so that if you have a jack stand failure or something, this isn't going to come down and crush you. I've actually heard on more than one occasion people being killed working under cars like this. So just make it a habit, throw your wheels under there. Just a few years ago I heard about a guy made a comment on a YouTube video about how it saved his life. So super simple little thing, you got to put them somewhere anyways, slide them under your vehicle so that way it can save your life, who knows. Okay, our vehicle's on our jack stands. Give it a shake, it doesn't budge. Seems pretty secure. Okay, our driver's side tie rod. Yeah, look at that thing. Complete failure. Just move it around by hand. And on the other end, same thing. Tie rod end is just completely shot, boots torn. It's obviously not going to hold grease. So before we go removing castle nuts off the steering damper there and off the top of the tie rod right down there, before we do any of that, we're actually going to take some key measurements because we want to make sure we keep this thing in alignment. Now what do these tie rods do? All they really do is connect to your steering knuckle on your driver's side and passenger side. They just connect them together to keep them in alignment with each other. And they obviously have a little play and movement to them. As your whole axle articulates, they need to have a little bit of movement. But that's all they really do, is they tie these two steering knuckles in spider webs. They tie these two steering knuckles together to keep them in alignment. So the three measurements I'm really interested in are the passenger side, the center of the tie rod there, down to the end of the adjustment sleeve there, the center of the passenger side outer tie rod there, all the way down to the center of the left outer tie rod. But then also I want the left outer tie rod, the center of it, to the start of the adjustment sleeve there. So 3 key measurements I want. Okay, so I'm going to feed this tape measure through to you. We're going to turn it upside down. There you go. Okay. Now, I need you to hold the tip of it. So the metal tip right here, look at this little, that's a little grease fitting right there. Yeah, you can just put it on the outside just like that, that's fine. Okay, hold it right there. Okay, so right on the tip. So it's 48 and, yeah, exactly 48 and a half. Okay, keep holding it there. 52 and, that'd be 3 30 seconds. 8, 9, 10, 11, 3 and 11/16. So now we can keep everything in alignment. We can go ahead and start taking nuts off. All right, let's remove the cotter pin and castle nut off this steering damper here. Three-quarter inch socket. Yeah, I thought that felt a little funny. It looks like I'm buying a new steering damper. This one, as I was unthreading it, it felt a little too, you know when you're unthreading something and it just feels a little weird, or you're tightening something and it feels a little weird? Well, this felt a little weird, and it just stripped all the threads right off as I was backing this guy out. Really unusual. I haven't had that happen before on a steering damper, but I don't know if I can save that. But the trick to getting your steering damper off, if it's just kind of stuck in there, which this one looks like it actually is, take your castle nut, thread it back on there backwards to protect your threads, which I can't do in this case, and thread it on just so it's flush, or so the castle nut is slightly above the stud there, and then you can strike on the castle nut and save your threads. But this one, it's just gonna have to come out like this. All right, let's move on to the tie rod over here on the passenger side. Get this cotter pin out. And this castle nut. Same thing on the drag link here. We'll, on the back side here, is take this cotter pin and castle nut off. Okay, next we are going to save this adjustment sleeve right here, and this is actually what the alignment shop will use to adjust. You can imagine if they thread this in or out, it'll adjust your, let's get that out of the way, it'll adjust your toe in or toe out on your wheel. So our new tie rod does not come with an adjustment sleeve right here, so we're going to reuse this guy, but everything else is included in our new tie rod. Okay, now that I've got everything loose here, the last thing I'm going to do to keep my alignment all the same, I'm going to count the number of revolutions that it takes to remove this. Now remember, this side is reverse threaded, so we're actually going to go this way. There's 1, 2, 3, 26. Okay, wrote that down here, 26 revolutions to take this tie rod off. Now the same thing with this adjustment sleeve, which is a little bit more of a pain. I can feel the crease on the bottom there, and this one is not reverse threaded, so alrighty, we've got our new tie rod here, and we will thread the adjustment sleeve back on there, the same number of revolutions. 15, 16. Now at this point, I've got that adjustment sleeve there threaded on. I'm double checking that it ends exactly at 48.5 inches. That's what my previous measurements were, and it looks like we're right on. And let's thread this guy on. 26 revolutions, reverse threaded. 1, 2, and let's get our little grease fitting on here. And some of these tie rod ends are ungreasable, as in they don't have a grease fitting like this, and they just have a lifetime grease in them. Some have a grease fitting though, like this one, and I will be sure to link all these in the description below. It's kind of your personal preference on what you like, if you want greasable or a lifetime grease fitting. Now that I've got everything in place, I can double check our length here so we maintain our alignment. And we are at 52 and 3/32 is what I'm looking for, and oh wait, no, we're too long. Yeah, this guy is not lining up perfect, and that is why I took an extra measurement from the end of the adjustment sleeve to the center of the grease fitting there, and that is supposed to be 3 11/16, and we are too long. So what happens is the threads on these are off. Like, depending on your manufacturer, one of these tie rod threads might be longer than others, so this one has to go in a bit. So I'm going to shorten it up a bit here until I get to that 3 11/16. Okay, there we go. Now that's exactly 3 11/16. So let's double check our overall length one more time. 52 and 3/32. So okay, so our overall length looks good now, so let's reinstall it. Let's just clean up the knuckle a little bit. Boy, that's got some gunk on it. Then we're going to end up torquing this guy to 35 foot-pounds. And line up the castle nut to get our cotter pin in there. And we're going to repeat that same process on the other side here. Tighten down our castle nut, torque this to 35 foot-pounds. And at the very end, don't forget to grease your fittings. So they're dry, you got to be sure to grease them. Then we're going to attach the drag link end and put the steering damper or steering stabilizer, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to put that back in place. On that steering stabilizer, I don't need an entire new steering stabilizer. I was able to order just the stud. You know, remember how that's stripped out? I was able to order just a new stud that goes through, so that should be arriving in the mail tomorrow. So I'll get that wrapped up. But so be sure to leave a comment. I love hearing from you guys. If you have any tips or tricks or anything, or if you found this helpful, maybe saved you some money, and be sure to check out my next video right up here. Thank you guys for watching and have a good day.